The future of Africa, liberation or dependence? Welcome to the New World Playbook. Today we explore one of the most important questions of our time. What does the future hold for Africa, a continent rich in culture, resources, and potential? Will Africa achieve true liberation from its past or remain caught in cycles of dependence? Let's dive into this story, a story of history, struggle, hope, and possibility. Music fades down as main script begins. Africa is a continent bursting with life, culture, and potential. Home to over 1 billion people, it's a land rich in resources, history, and diversity. Yet, when we look at Africa today, we often hear stories of struggle, of poverty, conflict, and foreign influence. But the future of Africa is not set in stone. There is a question hanging over the continent like a shadow. Will Africa achieve true liberation, political, economic, and social? Or will it remain trapped in cycles of dependence? This video explores that critical question. We'll dive into the legacy of the past, the realities of the present, and the possibilities for tomorrow. Because understanding Africa's future means understanding the forces shaping it today. Historical background. To understand Africa's future, we must first understand its past. For centuries, Africa was home to powerful kingdoms, thriving trade networks, and rich cultures. But the arrival of European colonizers changed everything. In the late 19th century, during the infamous Scramble for Africa, European powers carved up the continent with little regard for its people or cultures. Borders were drawn on maps in distant rooms, lines that ignored centuries of history, language, and community. Colonialism turned Africa into a resource colony. Raw materials were extracted and shipped out, while infrastructure was built to serve foreign interests, not local development. When independence came in the mid-20th century, many African nations inherited weak economies, arbitrary borders, and political systems designed to serve colonial rulers. This history laid the foundation for many of the challenges Africa faces today. Current economic and political landscape. Fast forward to today, and Africa's story is complex. On one hand, some countries are booming. Nigeria, Kenya, Ghana, and South Africa have seen impressive economic growth and technological innovation. There's a youthful population eager to innovate, build businesses, and transform their communities. The digital revolution is reaching corners of Africa once thought unreachable. But the other hand shows struggles. Many countries remain heavily dependent on foreign aid, foreign investment, and loans. Political instability, corruption, and weak governance plague parts of the continent. International powers, from China to Western countries, continue to influence Africa's economy, sometimes supporting growth, sometimes deepening dependence. Liberation efforts. Despite challenges, Africa's story is also one of resilience and hope. Across the continent, movements inspired by Pan-Africanism call for unity and self-determination. Young entrepreneurs in Lagos and Nairobi are building tech startups that solve local problems. Renewable energy projects bring power to rural villages. Local governments experiment with reforms to improve transparency and education. African voices are demanding control over their own resources and futures. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, launched in 2021, aims to create the largest free trade zone in the world. A bold step toward economic independence. Challenges to liberation. But the road to liberation is steep. Debt burdens weigh heavily on many nations, limiting their ability to invest in healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Corruption undermines trust and steals resources. Political instability threatens progress, while some leaders prioritize personal power over public good. Foreign corporations often extract wealth without adequate benefit to local communities. Aid, while helpful in crises, can sometimes create cycles of dependency instead of sustainable growth. These factors make true independence a difficult goal. Dependence factors. Aid dependency is one of the most debated issues. While foreign aid can provide life-saving assistance, critics argue that over-reliance on aid stifles local initiative and creates power imbalances. Trade imbalances continue to favor foreign countries. Africa exports mostly raw materials and imports finished goods, limiting industrial growth. Multinational companies control many resources, repatriating profits abroad. These dynamics can lock countries into a pattern of dependence, where real power lies outside their borders. The borders we never chose. See these straight lines on the map? They're not rivers or mountains or anything natural. They were drawn by people, far away from the places they were dividing. Over 100 years ago, the most powerful nations on Earth met in grand halls and closed rooms, places like Berlin, London, and Paris. They spread out maps across polished tables, took rulers in hand, and started carving up the world, as if they were slicing a cake they had every right to eat. But here's the thing. These weren't their lands. They were home to millions of people, each with their own languages, cultures, and histories. None of that mattered to the men holding the pens. What mattered were trade routes, ports, gold, oil, and control. So they drew straight lines through deserts and jungles, lines that split tribes in two, lines that put rival communities inside the same borders, lines that ignored mountains, rivers, and centuries-old connections between people. And when the colonial powers finally left, they didn't erase those lines. They left them behind like ticking time bombs. The result? Conflicts that still rage today. Countries locked in border disputes. Wars fought over identities that were reshaped by foreign hands. And generations growing up inside nations whose boundaries were never truly theirs to begin with. Colonial borders weren't just lines on a map. They were fault lines, deep cracks in the foundation of the modern world. And even now, more than a century later, we're still feeling the aftershocks. If this made you see the map a little differently, hit like, share this video with someone who needs to hear it, drop your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the New World Playbook, where we uncover the hidden history shaping the world you live in today.